All right, so today we're going to be going in and trying to make this 66 Falcon run. Last week we got it to start up, but I didn't try to make it run. This week our only goal is to go through what's going to be needed to make it run, and after the break, I want to crank it up and see if the fuel pump's working. Looking at that fuel pump, I have my doubts, but you never know.
For 45 years, the Miller family and the dedicated staff at Autocrafters have been here helping you to restore your dream Ford. Thank you for your support. Here's to another 45 years of delivering parts for your Falcon, Fairlane, F100, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto.
All right, now I'm going to put my finger over the, keeping my feet and legs away from the tires, I'm going to put my finger over the port that's the inlet port from the fuel line that's been cut down here in the bottom to right here. So I'm going to have Jackson just try to start it.
Right now?
Yep. Keep going. Keep going. Well, unfortunately, that does not suck. There should be a little bit of a suction pull you would be able to feel with your finger on that fuel pump, and it is not doing that. I have another fuel pump here on the other engine, but I'm probably just going to go ahead and call time of death on it and try to get one locally from the auto parts store to see if we can make it run. In the interim, what I'm going to talk about is other needful things you're going to want to do to make it run after you've got it to where it'll at least start with bottle feeding it. Looks like there's more money to spend. We're going to have to put the fuel pump, like I said, but looking down inside of that radiator, I can tell you right now that we need to at least take that to the local radiator shop and get it cleaned out. So that's going to have to be done. Luckily, the hoses on this thing are in pretty decent shape, so we'll leave those alone for now. So the, the other thing that I can see that's really a problem is our fan belt itself is not in the best shape, but we've also got a problem with alignment on the pulley for the fan as well. So that's something that's going to have to be dealt with later on. It won't hurt anything for us doing a run test later. Carburetor is always an unknown. Sometimes these 1100 carburetors are fine. They'll sit there for years and they'll run okay. We may end up having to do a rebuild on that. And if we do end up having to do a rebuild, we will actually do a video on how to rebuild one of those 1100 carburetors. So that's going to be something we'll do. Now what I want to do is I'm going to put him in there and see if he can push down on the brakes and get any kind of pedal out of it. We are eventually, not eventually, but we will be doing a video on replacing a single reservoir master cylinder with a dual reservoir master cylinder, working with our friends over at Autocrafters, getting all the lines and stuff to replace everything on this, moving the line set to a 67 and later line set and master cylinder, so we have a dual reservoir. Single reservoirs are really awful for the street, so we don't want to have one in here. The other thing we'll probably end up doing is we're going to move to a different column, but that has nothing to do with running and stopping at this point. The biggest problem will be if we don't have any brakes on this thing, we're going to have to do the brakes before we can get it to run. Running to me means that you should be able to get into the car and reasonably go somewhere. There's a couple other things on the inside of the car that are a problem, but we'll talk about those after we test our brakes. Get at it. All right, so I got Jackson in the car. We're going to test the brakes to see if we have any brakes at all. Jackson, push the pedal. Is it?
It's stuck.
That's never a good sign. That tells me that even if we were going to stay with what we've got on here, we would have to put a new master cylinder in it, because I can hear the pedal moving back and forth. Jiggle the pedal a little bit. So that tells me the problem is not in the mount, like we have a frozen mount from rust and stuff on that tower. That's a good thing. It's telling me that that master cylinder that's in here is just trashed. So now we know we're going to have to put a master cylinder on here anyway. We were planning on doing a dual reservoir master cylinder, so that's really not going to be that big a deal. We're just going to make the changeover and do that. So we are now deeper in the woods than we were before. Another thing that we're going to want to do to get our car to run or get it running is to also work on the neutral safety switch. These two wires are crossed right now so that the car will start and run, because if this basically is your start wire, so to speak, and if these two are not connected, the car won't run. That's what the neutral safety switch does. Basically, you have to have the car in either neutral or park, and it will start. If you have it in drive, 1 or 2, or reverse with the neutral safety switch in play, it won't start at all. With those two wires crossed right now, that sucker will start in any of the gears available, and some of the ones that aren't, like neutral. So there you go. All right, so that's basically where we're at right now. So I'm gonna have to go and start making a parts list and ordering parts for this thing. And then we can hopefully get it running, because at this point, I'm not really worried about the brakes, the master cylinder, the radiator. I just want to make it run. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself a fuel pump if I can find one locally, which could be a problem. And then we'll try to make it run. They're nearby. Gainesville, Georgia, Lake City, Georgia, or Charlotte, North Carolina. They're only 118, 133 miles away. All right, now what you're going to end up probably having to do is what I've done today is I went to the big three, and what I mean by the big three is I went to O'Reilly's, I went to Advance, and I also went to AutoZone to try to find the fuel pump around here locally. The only place I could find it was at O'Reilly's, so it won't even be available until after lunch today. Used to be you could go and order that stuff. Now you're going to be ordering it from a local auto parts store if you're lucky enough to have one uptown with, you know, the big three, so to speak, available to you. CarQuest, places like that as well. Napa, but I find Napa is pretty darn expensive. You're going to pay more money for a pump from them. Just know that. Nothing against Napa. They do quality parts. Promising. Okay, now what I want to talk about real quickly is we have gone and replaced the fuel pump on this car right here. We've got a little video we did on Instagram. Go check it out on how to make that installation a little bit easier. But if your fuel pump looks like this one right here, you really do want to go in and replace this thing, because what happens most of the time on these fuel pumps is when these engines are like this one is, and they're dry, and then they're wet, and then they're dry, and then they're wet, the diaphragms in here will just erode and decay. Modern fuels like to chew these things up like popcorn or candy. So you want to get rid of the old one, put a brand new one in, so you know you've got a good fuel delivery. I know I have good fuel delivery because I just saw a drip off of our carburetor. So we're going to probably have to do something with that. But I want to see if we are getting clean fuel delivery and if this thing is okay. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this over there because we're throwing it in the trash later. And now I'm going to start working on whether or not we've got a carburetor that we can go ahead and try to start and run with. Another drip. All right, so now we're in carburetor land, and we have a drip. I just saw it drip again a second ago. I see wetness around the bottom of the carburetor, so we are probably going to have to take this thing off of here, get a rebuild kit from Autocrafters, and go through this thing and rebuild it. But I want to show you some things. Like, your main accelerator setup is right here on the back. This is basically a push down and a cross for the carburetor. I'm going to push it, and there's your accelerator pump. And you can see we got a little bit of a something coming off of right there. One of the things you can try is to go in and tighten these up a little bit. Don't, as I like to say, go gorilla on them. If you go gorilla, you may actually bend your cap, and that is not good bueno. But these are all loose. I don't know why, but they are all loose. So I'm going to tighten these up. Let's see if that stops our accelerator pump leak. I'm not sure I care because I've got another drip leak on the other side. No, it doesn't stop it. We've got a problem with the accelerator pump right there. So that kills it for this week, folks. This is the art of doing this stuff. You're going to be doing this a lot. So you're going to be going through and getting fits and starts. So now you have to rebuild the carburetor on the car because you got an accelerator pump problem. Next week we'll be coming back with rebuilding that carburetor. I've never done an 1100 before, so this should be an exciting time for everyone. We'll rebuild that one carburetor. This is the correct carburetor for this car because it is a C5DF. That D stands for Falcon. C5 is 65, so that would be the build time for this car. So the carburetor is actually the original one for this little 6-cylinder. That's it. We're stopping for the day here. So do me a favor and be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. We'll see you guys on down the road. Well, not in this thing because it's not going anywhere for a little while. All right, try it. Well, she leaks like a sieve, but she runs. That's good. I like that. Nothing clattering, no lower end knock. Just rebuild that carburetor. We're good to go.
Fuel pump!